All right, so in this video, we're going to go over workout progressions and volume progressions. We just broke down our phases and our weeks, and I just want to show you, I use the word progression or loading a lot, so I just want to make sure we all understand what that means. And in very simple terms, there's like a loading and a deloading. So when you're loading, you're making things harder. Sometimes it's just doing more, and sometimes it's doing things with more intensity. And the two main levers you get from intensity are like you go faster, um, or you can do more reps, or like the intervals get tighter. There's less rest. So the only thing with less rest is sometimes if you keep going down in rest, then you change what you're actually working on. So an example of this would be like if you do 1025s on 130 all out, I would call that like speed development work or like ATP type work. But if you did 1025s all out on 20, then you're getting to like lactate production, lactate tolerance, which is a little bit different than that ATP type work. And it works a different system. That's like how we finish the 100 free. And the 1025s on 130 is more like how we start the 100 free. So we want to keep the main thing, but I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, and I'm going to start with a really easy one. It would be like a light aerobic set, right? So let's say we start with the aerobic set is 12 50s on a minute, and they just need to match their stroke count. Okay, so match stroke count, and you can take a look at it here. Match stroke count is where you go the same stroke count for the first 25 or the second 25. If this is long course 50s, you can do your odds need to match your evens, but this is like day one, week one, right? Okay, so on week two, we're going to go to 1650s. And we're going to say this is the same right here. Same. And that's day two, day one. All right, I'm drawing this live, so you're just going to have to bear with me just a little bit. Day one, week two. Okay? And this is like the aerobic day and our like more aerobic base phase. So we do want to go up. So then on the third week, we go 2050s. Same idea. Day one, week three. And then we'll go up to 2450s. Same. Day one, week four. And say we're loading for 4 weeks. On the fifth week, we're going to deload and we're going to go back down to 1250s. 1250s. Same. Day one, week five. So what we call this here is like we call this the loading, the load. And then we call this the deload. This is where we get the gains from the work we did. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind here when you're doing this. The interval does not always have to be the same as you go through. So you can make the interval faster because your athletes are getting into better shape. They're getting better as they go. So the 2050s on a minute might feel too easy compared to the 1250s, especially if this is like early season. So let's say here we went down to 55, and then we just held 55 as we went. And this is just one set out of practice. But I always say we keep the main thing the main thing. And part of that is like the main element of your workout. That's the real piece that needs to progress. So you can increase volume like the entire workout. For example, here, like a volume example would be like your first workout is like 4,000, and then you go to 44, and then you go to 48, and then you go to 52. That is totally okay for the entire workout. You can just add a little more to every set, but I think it's more important to add it on to the main thing, whatever your main set is. So like this set right here, this is only 600, then we go to 800, and then we go 1,000, 12, and then we're deloading. So we're back down to 600, which is fine. So, but and then we deload and we go back down to 4,000. So same idea, we load and then we deload, okay? So we always want to have a load and a deload. And this is a pretty straightforward, like we're always going up and then we go down, always go up and we always go down. That does not always work. The big thing is when you're doing the work, are you getting the same thing out of it that you want? So in this case, it would be like moderate aerobic. So if like they look like they're dying when you get to 24, like maybe it's a little too hard. Maybe you stay at 20 2 weeks in a row. But that's really just going to be dependent on your athletes and where they're at. I like to think of phases. So when you think of your phases, like where is your peak? Where is your peak? Right? I'm going to change the size of that pencil. Where is your peak? So if you know your peak is going to be a 2400 main set, then you can build around there. You can start at the top and then work your way down, right? So let's do this same example, but like let's say speed work, speed development type work, speed development, because I mentioned those 50s earlier. So it would be good to just take a look at this. So speed development, right? A great easy speed development set would be like 425s on a minute as fast as possible. And then 1 times 50, easy, on a minute. Just a little bit of stretch out, and we're going to do that 3 times. So we'll call that day 2, week 1, when we're starting to do that type of work, right? So the next one, I'm going to increase the intensity. And in this situation, I'm actually going to keep the reps pretty similar, but I'm going to add a little bit more, and I'm going to add more rest. So on the next one, we're going to go 5 times 25. We're going to put those on 110 as fast as possible. 1 times 75 easy. So they end up on the right wall if you're doing short course. Or I would probably put that on 120. Okay, so that's day 2, week 2. And the work that I'm really counting here is like the easy part. I'm not counting that as part of the speed development work. So in this first one, this I'm going to put SD work, speed development. We did a total of 300. Great. So speed development work here, we did 1525s, which turns out to be 250 plus 125. So we just did 375. So we just did a little bit more. And this might be too little of a step up or too small of a start for you guys, which is okay. And then we're going to go over here so I don't run out of space. We're going to go 3 times, and we're going to go 6 times 25s on 120. So same thing here. So by the time we get to here, we're doing 450 of speed development work. And then your last time, we're going to end up going 3 times, and we're going to go 725s on 130. It's going to take a lot of time, right? On 220. Lots of rest there. And then when we go up here, this is another 125, so I think that would be 575. Or we're just adding another 75 here. Yeah, 525. So really, it wasn't like this major giant step, but I promise as you go, especially because the interval is changing as you go, your intensity is going to go up. Okay, and that's what we want, especially when we're doing like speed work. Now, the only thing is the deloading speed. We usually keep the intensity, but drop volume. So if we look at, we started at 425 as fast as possible. I'd probably go back to the first set. We do 3, and we're just going to do 425s, but we're going to keep them on 130. And we're going to do a little bit more easier swimming here. So they're just going to have more rest and recovery between it. And this would be really great to see if this was like the fastest we go out of this progression. So if we have 4 weeks that we're working through, if when we get down to that last one, if we are like at our fastest at that point, that is a strong signal that like we're recovering and we're adapting to the speed. This is really what we'd want to see. Okay, let's look at one more example here. This is going to be like race pace work, okay? So we are counting how much race pace? We're counting the race pace, all right? And in this example, the goal is going to be 200 pace, okay? So let's say it's like our Tuesday morning, we're doing race pace work, so our 200 pace. So we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to go 850s, pace 200 on a minute, followed by 825s, pace 200 on 30. I'd probably put like something moderate in there in between, just as a little bit of a reset. Okay, so we're just doing race pace here. That turns out to be 600 race pace, 600 there. Okay, and let's call that day 4, week 1. All right, that's the first set we're doing. Okay, so on the next time we want to do probably 900 of race pace. I think that'd be good, or 800. But I'm going to do it a little different this time. I'm actually just going to change the setup. We're going to go 424 times 350s, pace 200. So that's a total of 1250s already. And then on the 25s, we're just going to go 225s, pace 200. And I think I'm going to keep these at a minute since we're having a break in between. And then we'll go 100 moderate on 140. Okay, so total here, you end up doing 12 50s, so it's 3 50s and then 2 25s, which is another 50. So it's 16 50s. So we actually end up doing race pace. We do about 800 here of race pace. And this is great. So this set, this second set that I just wrote, day 4, week 2, this is harder than the first one, but it just looks different. And at the end of the day, I'm just counting like the work we're doing. So the simplest version, uh, simple is keeping it the same. Okay, so like this workout, you just progress that. I know I just drew over it, but you just progress that and you keep it simple. Like you do the same thing week after week. We increase a little bit more as we're doing. We want to make sure we're staying there at race pace. The signal that you're doing a good job is that they're hitting their pace, right? Now, it's not always going to be perfect, but for the most part, like, all right, we're ready to go. We're rocking and rolling. And then let's go to like the next workout. So this workout leads into this, which leads into this. And on this one, I'm actually going to go 2 times. And we're going to go 650s, pace 200 on 110. 1 times 50, moderate. I know I'm riding sideways here. And then 425s, pace 200. We'll put those on 40. And then we'll go 1 times 100. MOD means moderate. Okay, so I'll put this on. I'll just keep the intervals the same so we don't have to confuse anybody. And then when you look at this, let's see if I just did this off of my head. That's 3, 4, that's 800 again. So I would do this probably 3 times. Whoa, how did it know? So I would do this 3 times here. So that'd probably be a pretty big jump. And we'd go from 800 to 1200 here of race pace. So race pace, that would be 1200 there. So that would be a pretty big jump, right? From 8 to 12. But we might be ready. And if we had a hard jump like that on the 3rd week, then I would repeat on week 4. And I know I'm working like we all have 5-week phases. And it might not be, in your case, it might not be a 5-week phase. And that's okay. So, but this is a similar type of work as we're going through. So it's the main thing is keeping the main thing. We're progressing it. And lastly, let's look at like weeks, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 workouts, right? Let's draw that all over again. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 workouts. And this is going to be aerobic. This is going to be race pace. This will be, let's call this like max efforts, okay? Or VO2 max sometimes you can call it that, depending on how far you're going. And this is going to be aerobic again. And then this is going to be race pace again. So what I do is like, okay, I want the main set's going to be 2000, and this is week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. Okay. This is going to be 2000. We're going to go to 24, 28, 32, and then we'll go back down to like 2000 here. I'll probably go down to 24 just because it's aerobics, a little easier, not quite as taxing, and we'll go from there. So if we're going here for race pace, we'll go 600 at race pace, 800, 1000, 1200, and then we're going to go back down to 600 here. So it really is like the whole week we're deloading. And then on our max effort swims, I would write out what we're doing. And you probably saw it in my sheet, like when I did the weekly plan. We're going to go 3 times 100s. All right, this is like max effort off the blocks. Okay. And over here, we're going to go 3 times 150s, 3 times 200s, and I would probably go uh, 3 times choice here. I would let the kids pick from those last 3. And then on the deload week, I would do 1 of each. So a 100, a 100, a 150, and a 200. Okay. And that is going to feel easier than what we did earlier. And then aerobic again, I'm honestly I'm going to keep this at like 2400 all the way through because this is going to be like our recovery. So it's going to be a lighter aerobic than the first one. The first day we're really pushing it, and then we're just going to stay at 2400 the whole time. Just keep that moderate, holding on. And then race pace here, we're actually going to do a little bit less because we'll do this one like pace 200. We'll do this one pace 100, so it's a little faster, right? So we'll go 400. If you're going faster, you're going to have to do a little less. It's more intense. If you try to keep the volume up as you try to get to faster paces, you're going to lose quality, and you're gonna lean more towards working on like 200 or further. So we'll go 400, we'll go 500, we'll go 600, and I might just stay there, 600 and back down to 400. And this is like what the progression looks like. So overall, like this week, let's highlight. How does highlighting work? Let's go. So overall, this whole week is going to be lighter. And that's okay because it's not just one day. Because if I were to like just back off on 2 of the days, let's say our race pace days, and then everything else was like still hard and going up, like we're just going to hit a state of fatigue where we're not getting the most recovery out of our athletes. And I think this is really important. I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I see a lot of good results. And it also gives the kids a breather. So when you're progressing and you're looking at these types of things, kids can't just work hard forever. They can't just keep working harder and harder and harder and harder. There needs to be some sort of a back off. And what's nice in your phases, if you line this week up with like a meet, um, a lot of times that meet goes pretty well. And you didn't do like a full taper. It's just like a back off. We backed off like 20, 30% that week. And it was good. So this is what I would do. This is what I mean by progressions and regressions. In the next video, we're going to talk about like writing entire workouts. But man, when you have the main thing, and if you've seen my stuff, you see me post individual sets, right? So I do that because sometimes you just need this one set. And if you can nail this 20 to 40-minute section of practice, you get a lot done. And that's where you fit in like your skill work, the secondary work like pulling or kicking, or maybe kicking is the main thing, whatever it is. But this is a great way to think about your practices. Like, this is the one set we have to do. And when I talk about the whole workout bleeding into this, like if we were doing this speed development work, I would have the stroke skills for this or racing skills for that type of stuff. Our first set, our warm up, would probably wrap around what we're doing that day. So, a lot of things you can do. Progressing your sets is really important. And that's why, like, picking your main work at the start of the week really helps you plan the rest of the week. And you'll see a lot of coaches, they'll run the same set like 5, 6 weeks in a row. It just changes. It changes the amount they're doing, how fast they're doing it, how much rest they're getting. And these are all the levers we pull for progressions and deloading.